All right, we're 7 days into the new year. I hope everybody's having an excellent week of 2023 so far. Going strong on your New Year's resolutions? I hope we are. I failed mine on the second day, but it's okay. So today I have a very special video for you all. A very classic ratatouille coming in for everybody. Ratatouille is going to be a mixture of fresh vegetables and a tomato sauce. And with that, you're going to see a pan-seared salmon and some Brie creamy, delicious polenta. And with our meal, I'm going to be serving a roasted pepper coulis. And a coulis just means a puree. Let's get started. Polenta is a product of corn, very similar to grits, except it's thicker, bigger in granule size, and it's also yellow in color. To start our polenta, melt half a stick of butter in the pan. Since our cornmeal is a dry product, we're gonna have to boil it, and it's gonna absorb very much liquid, just like a rice or a risotto would. The ratio is about 1 cup of polenta equals 4 cups of liquid. To our melted butter, add 2.5 cups of milk. Joining our 2.5 cups of milk is 1.5 cups of vegetable stock or chicken stock. They both work very good, and the stock is just gonna bring a nice rich flavor to our polenta. Our butter, our stock, and our milk are boiling now. In the 4 cups of liquid, just go ahead and add 1 cup of polenta, and all that liquid will be absorbed, I promise. Just use a whisk or a rubber spatula to go ahead and stir that up because you don't want any clumps forming together. Bring that to a boil and then reduce to a medium heat and leave it to cook, stirring occasionally for the next 15 minutes or so. We're about to make a beautiful and delicious sauce. So here I have some tricolored bell pepper. It's the same exact plant, just in different stages of maturity, red, orange, and yellow. There's not much of a taste difference between them all, but the colors are just bright and vibrant and beautiful, and they really make the dish pop. In order to make our puree, we want a nice, hard char on the peppers. So to set them on the flame like that is perfectly okay. Feliz Navidad. And that black color we're seeing, that's very good. That's exactly what we want. Leave it right on top of the direct heat and give it a couple minutes to char up. You could achieve this similar char effect by throwing it right on top of a grill or maybe putting it in your oven to broil. What you want is an extreme direct heat. Our pepper is charred excellently all around. This is the exact result you're looking for. Put that into a bowl, char up all the peppers you have the exact same way, just leave them right over the direct heat like that until they're crispy. You want to make sure to keep your peppers hot and steamy. And by doing that, we're just going to put some aluminum foil on top. And what that does is it's going to lock in the heat, keep the moisture inside, and allow the pepper to steam. And then we're going to have a nice, easy time working with it later. When it comes to ratatouille, there's a couple vegetables that are very standard. We have the squash, we have the zucchini, and the eggplant. So normally ratatouille gets other vegetables like onions and peppers, and we're going to add those other ways through our sauces. Go ahead, take off the top and the tail, cut it in half, top to bottom. Now the result I look for when I make my ratatouille, I like nice big hearty chunks of vegetables. This is a very hearty dish. And I also don't like when the vegetables get too mushy and overcooked. Nice firm bite on them is right where we want them to be. Throw the zucchini in a bowl. And now let's cut up the rest of it the same way. Take your half, slice it in half one more time. Manageable bite-sized piece, roughly similar in size to how the last two were cut. This is looking perfect, just a nice cube, almost an inch. You want to take all of your diced vegetables, coat it with a little bit of olive oil, and just mix it up and make sure everything gets evenly coated. Take a baking sheet, lined with some aluminum foil. Make sure your vegetables are one nice flat layer so that everything has a little bit of space, because what we're gonna do is pop these into a very hot oven, 500 degrees, and let it get nice and crispy. Our polenta is supposed to be nice and creamy. If it's looking a little too thick for your liking, a little more milk or a little more broth can thin that out to right where you want it to be. Just add it and stir it in until you're at the desired consistency you want. Dice an onion, you guys have seen this one before. Get your onion half, slice down in intervals. Be careful when you're slicing towards yourself. You want a nice sharp knife. Dull knives are more dangerous. You have more control over the sharp knife. Go almost all the way through. Come back. Same business, almost all the way through. About a 1/4 inch apart. And now just turn it sideways. Get your cross section cuts. We've all seen this a few different times on the channel, and I'm sure everywhere else too. And that looks perfect for a sauce. All right, it's time to make the sauce for our ratatouille. We have our onions chopped. Now it's time to chop our tomatoes. But first, you want to remove this part. You're better off using a smaller knife for this. You have more control over the point. But all you do is you dig your knife tip down at an angle, and then you just gently spin and rotate until you have the stem out of the picture. Cut your tomatoes into the same size as all the other vegetables, the eggplant and the zucchini, just large dice. This is going to make our sauce very flavorful. Hearty chunks, just like that. We got a shallot and some garlic here. These are both in the onion family. They're bulbs. They offer very similar flavor profiles, but just slight differences between them all. Now, as an Italian, there's never too much onions or garlic in a dish. The goal here is to chop everything finely. Unless you really like big pieces of garlic, that's okay. All right, guys, it's time to start our tomato sauce now for our ratatouille. Go ahead and get a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in the pan. You heard me, that's right, extra virgin. Throw your diced onions and let them start to sweat out and get a little translucent and cooked. Yeah. Once your onions have cooked for a little bit in the olive oil, now it's time to add the shallots and the garlic. Mix that all together and cook it up until it's soft and fragrant. Here's some tomato paste. You're gonna need 1 spoonful of it. Tomato paste is very concentrated and it adds an excellent flavor to any tomato-based sauces or soups you might use. A little bit of it goes a very, very long way. Mix the onions into the tomato paste and just let the sugars in the tomato caramelize, and you want to cook that for a couple minutes until everything is golden brown and toasted. Once your onions and your tomato paste are caramelized and they're looking delicious like this, deglaze your pan with a little white wine. Reduce that a little bit. To our onions and wine mixture, it's time to add our fresh tomatoes. 2 cans of crushed tomatoes with basil. Here's a tip is run some water through your cans and make sure you get the absolute most of all that good tomato juice out of there. No waste. And now it's time to season with a bay leaf, some red pepper flakes. You guys know I gotta have my garlic and onion powder. Pepper and salt. Stir that all together and leave it on a low heat to simmer so all the flavors can get to know each other. It's time to go check back on our peppers that have been steaming for about 30 minutes. And as you can see, the char wipes right off. All you do is apply a little bit of pressure, get it all off of there. The black char, once you puree that, it'll add a very ugly color to the dish. It can help to have a bowl of water next to you when you do this, so you can just peel it off in there, and the char will stick to the water and not to your fingers or to the pepper or anything else. You don't have to get all of it, that's perfectly fine. And that's just about exactly what you want to see. Little bits of charring are okay, but for the most part, it's all in the water. And now just repeat that with all your peppers. Squeeze it off as you run your fingers through the skin. Pepper number 2, done. And on to pepper number 3. Here we have our cooked peppers. Separate the flesh from the seeds. It's already partly cooked since you roasted it. So just grab it. Try not to disturb the rib cage too much. And all the seeds will stay intact just like that. Your only goal here is to safely separate the flesh from the seeds. And it's as easy as that. Here's the peeled roasted peppers in our trusty magic bullet. I just added a little bit of water and now it's time to puree. We have our nice beautiful orange puree here, and now it's just time to season very gently a little bit of olive oil for some smoothness and that deep, rich flavor. Just a little bit of salt to bring out the sweetness from the peppers, and a pinch of garlic. And now just puree it one more time to get those flavors all incorporated. Take your pepper puree and you want to strain it. Get all those chunks out of there. You want a fine metal sieve for this. Some cheesecloth works good too. And just let the liquid run out of it. That's what you really want. And now just work the back of a spoon, press it against the mesh, and extract all that good puree out of there, while you leave behind things that got through like seeds and other pulp. You know, not every dish requires the same amount of effort. Usually, the result of the dish you get back is the amount of effort you put in. And I've put in a lot of easy videos for you guys to follow, things you can get done in 20 to 30 minutes that are still delicious. But this is one of my dishes that does require a lot more effort, a lot more technique, but the result is just gonna be unbelievable. Unlike anything you've ever cooked for yourself. Keep running the back of the spoon against the mesh, push everything through, and when you get down to just the pulp like this, you're just about ready to throw that out. Here we have all of our strained pepper puree, and now it's just time to check for seasoning. It needs a little bit more salt and a little bit more olive oil, but besides that, it's perfect. You don't want too much flavor in this. Let the peppers speak for themselves, because the sauce and the ratatouille have so much flavor. This is just gonna be a nice complement to it. Now throw this on a low heat and reduce it until it's thicker. Our tomato sauce is reducing nicely. You can see it's thick, hearty, chunky, and there's tons of body to it. It stands up on the spoon, and that's exactly how I like it. It's time to check for seasoning. Definitely needs just a little bit more salt, but besides that, we're on the right track. We re-seasoned it, and now it's time to just add some hand-torn basil. Do this right before you serve it. You don't want to cook the basil in there for too long. The fresh basil gives it a lot of brightness to the dish. Now you can chop this if you'd like. You can chiffonade, you can fine chop, but I really like these rustic pieces of big hand-torn basil. You know, you can't really beat that. Give it a stirry. And now it's time to add all of our roasted vegetables from earlier. We took them out of the oven. Our sauce is entirely complete. And now they just get all the roasted vegetables. This is essentially what ratatouille is. A very thick, hearty, tomato-based stew with lots of vegetables in it. And this is looking excellent, exactly how I like it. After you add your vegetables, it's time to do one last taste for seasoning. Still need a little more salt over here. I'm gonna add some more basil too. There's never too much basil. Nice and warm, thick, hearty, very filling. This is a great wintertime meal. We have our polenta here. It's looking nice and creamy, exactly how we like it. Right before you serve it, just go ahead and add a little more cream, a little more milk, a little more stock, whatever you have, and that'll help loosen it up again. And polenta is great because it absorbs the flavor of whatever you're cooking it with. So here I have some nice Brie cheese. You can use any cheese in a polenta. You can do herbs. And I'm just adding the Brie to mix it up and melt it. And that's gonna give it a nice, rich, smooth, and velvety texture. Just keep that on a low heat until your cheese dissolves. Here's our reduced puree of the pepper. You can see it's a nice, beautiful orange color. We're gonna throw that back into our magic bullet. Add a good amount of olive oil. And then we blend this until it's all emulsified. Now you can see when we blend in the oil and emulsify it, it makes a beautiful nappe consistency, which is basically like making a vinaigrette almost. You are whipping the olive oil particles into the pepper juices, and it makes a beautiful thick sauce that is the perfect consistency. Next up, you want to take your salmon fillet or any other protein you're using. Take some paper towels and pat them dry. You want to remove any excess moisture so you can get a nice good sear. Season both sides of your salmon with just salt. Olive oil in the hot pan. Salmon skin side down. After you let your salmon sit and relax in the pan on the one side for a couple of minutes, you can see on the side of the salmon, about halfway up, it's almost cooked. So that means it's time to flip it. You can also tell when it's time to flip it based upon the nice golden brown color on the underside. And now we want to get a nice, hard, beautiful sear on the top. Don't forget to salt the back sides. We already salted the top. This nice crispy golden brown color is the perfect result. We got a nice hard sear. We got a good crust on the salmon, but it's still nice and juicy and tender in the middle. And now it's time to plate up. We got everything done. First up, we have our beautiful Brie polenta. You can see it's the perfect consistency. It stands up on the plate, but it still runs a little bit, nice and creamy. Our hearty, chunky, garlicky, herby Ratatouille, right in the middle of the polenta. You want to make sure you have plenty of root vegetables on there, filled with tons and tons of vegetables. It's a very satisfying stew, especially on a cold winter day. Throw that ratatouille right in the center of your polenta. Throw your piece of salmon right on the top of that beautiful looking plate. And we garnish with just a small amount of roasted pepper coulis around the rim. We throw a small little leaf of basil on top to garnish. And boom, there you have it. Chef Sawyer's ratatouille with his creamy brie polenta, with his roasted pepper coulis, with a seared piece of salmon. That's a wholesome, healthy, hearty meal. And you can get that done in as short as 6 hours, okay? So go ahead and make sure you throw that one together at home. Nice and simple. I kept it as easy and straightforward as I could for everybody, okay? We have the roasted pepper, which has a nice char. Very good. But really, I know all of the components are very good together because throughout the whole process, I'm tasting and adjusting. So now it's just time to try it all and dig into that salmon. Nice and flaky in the middle, perfectly cooked. And I'm just gonna start on the edge and run my spoon inside, get a little bit of everything. Good. Really, I wasn't expecting this flavor to come through as much, but I'm getting a lot of the brie and the polenta. It's a wonderful pairing. It goes excellent with the salmon, it goes excellent with the ratatouille, and the pepper coulis just ties it all together. This is definitely an awesome dish, and while it might not be as easy as some of my other ones, I challenge you guys, if you'd like to advance your skills, if you'd like to learn and grow as a cook, then make sure you follow the steps carefully, make sure you're seasoning to taste, and all of these little differences over the course of here and there is what makes the difference between a good meal and an excellent meal. I hope you guys are able to take home something from these videos. I appreciate each and every one of you coming back week after week to support me. You rock! Thank you very much for everything you do. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Cut!